Hey everybody, Josh from Populi here. We're going to be spending some time today talking about the setup that you need to do to enroll students. So this is a video that's going to be most helpful to people who are starting off maybe basically from scratch. We'll talk about some of the different variations there where you might be in your setup. But the idea here is that you want to be able to set things up so that you can get to the point that you're enrolling students. Okay, so we could talk about setup in a lot of different ways with different emphases. But what we wanted to do here is focusing on the goal of getting students enrolled in courses. And then these are the things you need to have in place in order to do that. The additional goal, kind of a sub goal, is think through some of the trickier aspects of setup. As we're going to show you, the actual meat of just getting things set up, just the substance of getting those individual pieces, is not very complicated. But there's a lot to think about around that. Lots of fields that you need to know, what this field means in order to end up with what you're looking for. Our roles that you would need to have in place in order to get things set up here, split out a little bit here. In order to create academic years and terms, you have to have the academic admin role. So if you're an academic admin or if you're a super user who's setting things up and has maybe all the roles, you're going to need to have that role in order to do that part of things, the academic years and terms. Academic admin or registrar role is required to create the catalog entries and course instances that we're going to talk about, and then to manually enroll students. So if you have the academic admin role, you can do all of this. If you only have the registrar role, you would need someone with the academic admin role to set up the academic years and terms, and then you would be able to do the rest. Let's talk about real quickly why this is important to kind of approach things this way. Populi is not a piece of IKEA furniture. And I think sometimes people can think about it that way, that there's a thing that needs to be set up. So I'm going to go start setting it up. But that can get you into situations because you don't know what setting this particular element up this way means down the road. So the goal here is to try to get through that process and show you sort of the end game for some of those different pieces so that you can know why you're setting something up rather than just getting it set up to get it set up. So that you don't end up in a situation where it's like you've locked your keys in the car, you're looking through the car window, you can see the keys in the ignition, the engine is running. Most things are not irreversible in Populi, but you can, without knowing it, get yourself into a situation where you might have to go through and delete a bunch of stuff and reorganize, and the goal is to kind of save you that time here. Okay, we're going to jump in then, and we're going to do kind of a quick overview of what needs to be in place in order to get a student enrolled. So to enroll a student, first step is to have a student. That's one requirement. We also need to have a course instance. Students get enrolled in course instances. So we need to have those two things in place. But to get that course instance, there's a little more setup involved. We need to have a catalog entry, and then we also need to have an academic term. So really a course instance needs both of those things to exist, the catalog entry and the academic term. And then the academic term, for that to exist, we need to have the academic year in place. Okay, once we have all these things, it's a thing of beauty. Okay, let's think about that from a slightly different angle. We need the academic year so that we can have the academic term. And then we need the catalog entry so that we can create the course instance, so that we can enroll the student in that course instance. So that's really the same thing, but we're just thinking in terms of requirements. We need to have a course instance. The course instance requires the academic term and catalog entry. The academic term requires there to be an academic year. So that's how we get all that stuff there. Okay, the next step that we're going to run through here is the actual setup. So you'll We're going to work through this via screen capture here in Populi so that you can see how all these different pieces come together. I'm not going to do a lot of explanation. The point of what we're doing right now is just for you to see the basic functions that you need to do, but we're not going to talk about everything that I'm doing in a lot of detail here. We're just going to run through it so that you can get an idea of what needs to be set up there. So starting from home, we're going to go to academics, and then over here to settings, and then to academic years. And then once we're on academic years, we're going to click add academic year. We're going to enter the start year and then the end year, and then save that. You'll see that that shows up down here. So we get 2021, 2022. We're going to click into that. And then we've just got a few areas here. And the main thing that we're going to do now is move to that next step on our list here, create an academic term, sort of a sub-step of creating an academic year. So we're going to click add. We're going to give it a name. We'll just call it fall. You can see we've got a display name going. We're going to start on August 16th. We're going to run that through to December 17th. And then we're going to save. Obviously, you would typically create maybe a whole term of academic term or a whole year of academic terms here. We're just going to save that one for our purposes. Academic year and academic term are complete. So now we're going to look real quick at creating a course catalog entry. Working from home again, we're going to go to academics and then into course catalog. And then over here, you can see we've already got courses in the course catalog, but we're going to choose to add a course. We're going to put in some basic information here. This course is going to be essay writing. We'll put in an abbreviation. It's going to be ENG 125. You would typically add a description. For our purposes, doesn't really matter. We're not going to worry about some of these things. We're going to add a program here. We're also going to choose a specific department. This is going to go into the literature and writing department. And then we want to add a couple of credits, a couple of hours there. And then as far as we're concerned, for our purposes, we're good. And we're just going to go ahead and save that course. Okay, so now we'll be able to find it here. There it is, essay writing. We've created our course catalog entry. Now let's look at creating a course instance. Working from home, we're going to click on academics, and then we'll land on an academic term here. Then we'll click into courses, and then we'll select the correct academic term up here under the term selector. Okay, so now we're looking at that correct term in the correct academic year. We're going to go over here on the right and click Add Course. Click to add a course. We're going to set the department. Remember, we put this in the literature and writing department, so that's the one we'll select. And then we'll click on choose a course within that department. And there is English 125 essay writing. And then down here, we're also going to set the campus. Okay, you may or may not have multiple campuses. For our purposes, just to be able to fully demonstrate what's going on here, we're going to set a campus here on this particular course instance, which is the Core With campus. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the academic term here that we've created within an academic year that we created, and then we created a course catalog entry here, and then we've added this course instance to a term. So that's the basic setup there. Okay, now we're going to talk about how we get that student enrolled. There are a couple of ways of doing this. We'll talk about this a little more as we go, but we're going to show one way of doing that, manual enrollment by an admin here. on the course, you can see that we clicked into the course instance itself. We can tell it's a course instance because it has all these options over here. We have a term selector over here on the right. So that's a course instance on which we can go to the roster. On the roster, we can then add a student by name. So we're going to grab this student here. You can see that I type in the name, it comes up in the results, and then I choose to enroll this student and save. Now that student's enrolled. That's one way of working. Go ahead and delete that enrollment. So now that we've deleted that student, now what we're going to do is demonstrate kind of what it would look like from the student perspective to enroll in this course. We're going to search for that student's name up here, select her from the list. And then because things are set up for online enrollment, the student has a registration tab. If they have access to Populi, they would see that tab. They would come here and they would see this course to enroll in. They would click that enroll button, click add, and then would be able to save their enrollment. And then depending on how you're set up, they would be already enrolled in the course like that. Either of those two ways, either manual enrollment, if maybe you're setting things up at your school and you're working through a bunch of transcripts or something, and getting those students enrolled that way, or if you're opening up enrollment for students to get in, that's how that would work. So that's the basic process. That's the meat of the process. Of course, you're probably doing a bunch of iterations of this. You might be setting up a number of academic years, maybe just the current one. Maybe you're manually inputting older academic years. You're creating a bunch of terms under that. You're creating perhaps your entire course catalog in Populi. So obviously each of those steps has a lot of individual work there, but as far as just the most basic things that you need to do to get students enrolled, that's what we saw. You're creating academic years, terms under that, you're creating catalog entries, and then you're creating course instances, then you're enrolling students one way or another in those course instances. The other thing that I want to mention here, and a lot of this is kind of covered in more detail in the appendices on the handout. We covered everything that you absolutely have to set up, but there are other things that you might want to look into. Either you'd probably want to set this up or it's optional. So for instance, programs, you'd probably want to have a program set up. We'll talk more about why later. As you're getting students enrolled, you'll want that in place. Grade scales, if you want to be able to set a student's specific grade, and of course you would need a grade scale in there. Then things like degrees, degree audit, and then even your billing setup can be influenced by some things here. For instance, if you're setting up an upcoming term and you want to be able to get students in there and start creating charges for them, you would need that set up as well. So this touches a lot of different aspects of Populi. But again, the major ones that you would probably want to have set up as you're getting things going here before you start enrolling students would be programs, grade scale, and then billing setup as well. But that's a whole other thing. We're not going to cover those aspects of this process in a lot of detail. Now we're kind of going to go back over what we just saw really quickly there. And we're going to do this in order to consider certain fields as we're setting them up and all that. So we'll go back to the academic year that we've already created here. And we're going to academics and then settings and then academic years. And then you'll see that academic year. So we added that just by clicking add academic year. This has already been created here, so we'll just click into the one that's already there. Okay, and we saw that we can add terms over here. Now that we've added a term, we would just edit and we would be able to go in and start adding more terms there. So Obviously, you would typically add a whole year's terms all at once you have your term schedule sort of figured out there. You'll see that we added that when we add a name here, let's say we're going to add a spring term. Whoops-a-daisy. Let's say we're going to add a spring term here, and that automatically creates a display name. So that display name there, you can edit to be whatever makes the most sense. Let's say you don't want the entire academic year listed there. You just want to indicate which actual calendar year that term is in. You could change it that way. Then, of course, you add your dates, all that. Okay, but there's another function here, which is that you can add a term as standard or non-standard. What that basically means at this point in Populi is that non-standard terms can overlap with any other term. Standard terms can't overlap. So, for instance, if we want both fall and spring to be standard terms, we wouldn't be able to set this beginning date here as December 16th, because that will end up overlapping with that other term. Let's set the end date there. Let's put some years on these guys as well. Okay, so now we've added that. Let's go ahead and try to save that. Standard terms cannot overlap. So that's what we're seeing there. But if we were to real quick check this as non-standard and then save, now we're able to. That's all that's going on with those terms. I want to talk a little bit about ways of thinking about how these terms function broadly, okay? So there are various elements of Populi that all depend on terms. In fact, terms are really a central organizing principle in Populi. And that means that it has all kinds of, those terms have all kinds of effects. This is basically the kind of stuff that you want to think about as you're thinking about the best way of organizing your terms. So enrollment is controlled by term, okay? So enrollment all happens within a specific term. You can't enroll students in a course that's not in a term. You have to have a term and you have to have a course in that term to be able to enroll a student. That's central that way. Transcripts, because enrollment is by term, transcripts list courses by term. Billing, because those enrollments are all happening by term, charges are triggering by term. So all of these things are being affected. Reporting is also typically dependent on terms. Various places in Populi and the data slicer and other places, you need to indicate the terms that, that you want to report on for enrollment, GPAs, other things there. So that ends up terms end up influencing your reporting as well. And really, the basic thing that we're saying here is that enrollment happens by term. So because enrollment is central to how schools function, and then these enrollments are contained within terms, lots of other stuff just kind of revolves around the term setup. So it's really central, and you want to think about all those different aspects of terms as you're getting things set up. It has a lot of downstream effects. Let's move into talking a little bit about the catalog entry there. So catalog entries are kind of the version of a course that's the most abstract. It's up in the clouds. It's not down on the ground. Students don't enroll in catalog entries. So that happens once that catalog entry has been entered into a term and becomes a course instance there. But the catalog entries end up being the basis for one course in multiple instances. So you've got your, fall 2020 version of English 101. You've got your spring 2021 version of English 101. These are all individual instances. So it's one course, English 101, but in multiple terms. So that's what a course catalog becomes when it becomes a course instance. But there's one thing that's sort of presiding over all those individual instances. That's the course catalog entry. So to create course catalog entries like we saw working from academics, we click up here at academics, we click down into course catalog, and then we click add a course. That gives us a few options. Remember, we already created a course there, so we'll just jump down to that course that we already created, ENG 125, and click into that. Now, what we're going to do is have a look at some of these individual fields here, because some of the ways that these fields work are a bit different. So on a catalog entry like this, we have some fields that are controls and then some fields that are templates. Controls means that these fields here on the catalog entry actually control things for all courses listed under that. So all course instances that are based on this course catalog entry are controlled by these fields here. So those would be self-enrollment, down here at the bottom, self-enrollment's one, your retake policy up here, that's one, program, and then department and remedial, status, and tuition schedules. All of these different fields control all other course instances. But then we also have template style fields. That would be basically everything else. Hey everybody, wanted to jump in there real quick because I wanted to clarify something. I said that you have those control fields, everything that isn't listed is a template field. That's kind of true. The only one it's not quite true about is the abbreviation. The abbreviation there is something that you fill in as you create that course catalog entry, and the abbreviation does control historic instances. There are some limitations about changing that and all that. It's a little bit different kind of field. I just wanted to make sure that we made that clear. Bye. So pass, fail, credits, all of these are templates. Now this isn't a template in terms of like a course template. You're not adding, say, course content here. You're defining in general how this course functions. So for instance, credits would be a template type field. What that means is whatever you have listed under credits when you create a new course instance from this catalog entry, that's the number of credits that end up populating on the course instance, okay? So let's say you create your fall version of English 125 and you have it set as 2 credits, but by some miracle, when you get to the next term, you're going to offer that course again, but this time it's going to be worth 3 credits. So you could change that here before you create the course, and then instead of 2 credits, because you've edited this to 3 credits here and then saved that, now when you create that course catalog or that course instance, you're going to have a 3-credit course instead of a 2-credit course. This, because it's a template field, only affects the courses that you create from this version of the course catalog entry. So even though we created this course instance to be from that course catalog entry, this instance is still only worth 2 credits. So it's not a control field there, it's just a template field. So that's the distinction there. We can change various things here and then create new course instances, and those will all look like what we've conformed those different template fields to look like. But if we change them here, we're not changing anything for historic instances of that course. Control fields do make those kinds of adjustments. Template fields don't. And again, we already saw that list of all the control fields. So most of what you would set here doesn't affect historic instances, of course. Hey everybody, something else I wanted to jump in to mention here is that program field. The program field is an important one to set on the course catalog entry. Basically, what we're trying to do is when somebody enrolls in a course, we're looking for a match between the course catalog entries program field and then the program that's active and set on that student. If we have a match there, then we automatically get a mapping between the course and the student, and that course knows where to go on the student's profile. If that's not there, then you have to go backwards and map those individually on each student. Okay, so you will save time by making sure that you have the program field set on the course catalog entry. That's it. See you later. Okay, so that's the catalog entry and then the course instance. The catalog entry is up in the clouds. The course instance is on the ground. It's down in the mud and it's in the actual term there. So let's talk about creating that course instance. The course instance is a term-based content container in which a student can be enrolled. So content container, what we mean by that is when you actually go to create lessons and assignments and discussions, that's all content that will exist within an actual course instance. That doesn't go into your course catalog entry, just exists down there in the course instance. So that's the definition. Okay, so we're gonna walk through real quick what it looks like as we're creating that course. We're gonna go to academics, academic term, and then into courses. The term selector here, we're gonna set that to the fall term that we created. We're gonna click add courses, select add a course, choose the department. We're going to choose the course here. Again, that's why it's important to set, as you're creating the course catalog entry, to set the department there so that it's easy to find that course again. We're going to choose essay writing. We can make any adjustments here that we might need to. So we could give this a different section number. We could change the start and end dates. These automatically conform to the term's start and end dates, but if you have different start and end dates for this course, you can modify those as you're setting it up. Then you can also choose the campus. We're going to choose the Core with campus there. Published, yes versus published, no. Basically, the way that you choose to set this it's up to you. Hey, everybody. So the question there on published equals yes or no is not whether you would ever set a typical course to published. You would publish those courses so that students can see content in them and all that. The question is when. So if you're setting up a whole term's worth of courses, you might go through, create a course, set it to published equals no until you're ready to put it out there for everybody to see more content on. So I just wanted to make that quick clarification. See you later. The publish setting controls what course aspects students can see. So if it's set to yes, enrolled students have full access within those start and end dates there. Okay, so that's just the default once you've published the course. On unpublished courses, students that are enrolled only see the course name, the description, whether or not it's pass-fail, credits or hours, the faculty who's teaching the course or any faculty that are set on the course as faculty, and then the meeting times. So it's really limited what they're able to see, or more limited when the course is unpublished, even if they're enrolled there. Before a student is enrolled, if they click into a course that's set to published equals no, they'll see a specific card that looks like this here. So that they're not able to see much of anything, just a few details there. This is all, again, before they're enrolled, and the course is set to published equals yes, they'll see a few more details. You can see that they can get into the calendar and stuff there, so they can see a little bit more about the course that way. Again, you can set up that meeting schedule or leave it until later. Once you've got everything worked out here, we have everything we need to have set. We're going to click Add Course. And there it is back in that term again. Now, this is a course in which we can enroll a student. Even though we already saw this, we're going to run back over and get some more detail on this as well. When you're actually enrolling students, there are two primary ways, two categorical ways of getting students into courses: manually enrolling them or allowing students to self-enroll. Manual enrollment would occur if you have students that don't have access to Populi. They would have to be manually enrolled. So this happens not as much anymore, but we've had folks that have students who their grades and transcripts are all being recorded in Populi. They don't actually have access. So obviously they have to be manually enrolled in courses because they can't get into Populi. They're also going to be manually enrolling students if you're building transcripts and haven't migrated that data in. So if you have a bunch of paper transcripts or something, you're going to work through those, then you're going to go through, set up your academic years and terms and course instances, and then work through those course instances, just enrolling students there manually. And then some students some institutions manage all of their enrollment manually. They just take care of that for students there. And so that would be another situation for that. The process for self-enrollment just involves you going and setting up online enrollment, that period for a term. And then students log into Populi, and then they register for courses. Hey, everybody. We decided after we shot this video that it was already very long and for some of us maybe a little bit boring. So to deal with that problem, we decided to move some of this content into another video. You'll find a link to that video down in the description. Basically, what we go through in this other video is just as we go back over the process of manual enrollment, which you've already seen, and then show what it looks like for a student to enroll from sort of the student's perspective. That's really helpful stuff to see, but ultimately it was just a little too much for the video. And if you want to see it, go ahead and follow that link down in the description. I did want to clarify a couple things that we cut out here, just so that you have all the information you need to think about how to set these things up. So the course catalog has that program field that influences what students can see in terms of courses when they go to enroll on their registration tab. So we have to have a match between the student's active program and then the program field on that course catalog entry. Also, the campus field that you set on a course instance has to match the student's campuses. This only applies to folks who have more than one campus. But if you do have that, and a student has, say, the core width campus set on their profile, they'll be able to see course instances that have the core width campus set there. So just a quick clarification there, that's what we're losing. Now what's going to happen is we're going to jump ahead to just looking at how to set up online enrollment for students, and then we'll get into a quick recap, and then that's the end of the video. Bye-bye. We're going to skip over then to looking at setting up self-enrollment. We're going to do that by going to Academics, Academic Term Info, and then on the term selector, make sure we've got the term that we want selected there. And then you'll see down here, we've got online enrollment as a CIL here. To the right there, you'll see an option for edit. You'll click that. And then we'll want to set the date that this is going to start. So we're going to set it for June 6th. And then you can see that we've automatically got a date in here for the end date. What we do is you'll see that there's this add drop date. You can kind of see it here in shadow. This add drop date that's already been set when the term was created. And that add drop date is typically when online enrollment ends. If that's not the way that it works for you, then you can change that there. So you can have it close on whichever date you'd like. There's some other options down here. You can open this by a specific standing. So let's say that you want to let your upperclassmen register before your underclassmen. You would be able to set those dates as well. This is still the date when everyone is going to be able to enroll, but you could give them a bit of a jump. You could set it, sometime in May or whatever, and then they would be able to get in there and enroll in their chosen classes first. We have some other advanced options. I'll refer you to that handout for more information on that. So we'll save this though. So online enrollment is set up for this term. So to recap, here's what we covered in a couple different levels of detail. We were looking at how to get things set up so that you can enroll a student or enroll students in your institution. We covered creating an academic year, creating an academic term under that academic year, creating a course catalog entry, from that creating a course instance, and then getting students actually enrolled via either manual enrollment by an admin or online or self-enrollment by the student themselves. Okay, so that's everything sort of in a nutshell that we went over today. We covered a lot of ground. Remember, there's a handout that you should be able to get a hold of. And then we're also looking to start setting up some Q&A sessions around this. So that would be for those sessions, we recommend having seen these videos as you've done, and then just joining in to ask any specific questions that you might have that goes into greater depth in any area or about your specific situation there. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. Remember that if you didn't already grab the handout, if you click on the link below in the description, that'll take you to the handout. You can grab that there. Again, it's got a lot of additional information that might be helpful, but don't forget about our knowledge base as well, where you can kind of search anything like that and you'll get a lot of good content. Most of the information that's contained at the end of the handout is just taken directly from the knowledge base. So the knowledge base is kind of the ideal source there for any information about that. On our YouTube channel, you can feel free to hit subscribe and then click the notifications bell so that you get notified whenever we post a new video. Ding, ding, ding. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Thanks for using Populi.